Well, we were expecting this. No surprise. We're a couple of days away from New York Toy Fair, and all the different websites are already spilling the beans and getting exclusives on stuff we're going to be seeing that weekend. And no sooner than that do comicbook.com give us a look at a new gimmick and a new subline of Transformers for the Transformers Cyberverse line, or in this case, the Bumblebee Cyberverse Adventures, whatever you want to call it now, that we'll be going into with Season 3. So we have here a new gimmick line called Battle Call. And what it is essentially is it's larger Transformer toys that have electronic gimmicks housed in its body, and you could talk to them and it'll activate an armor or a light and sound or something like that when you talk to them. It's a gimmick that, to my knowledge, has not been done within the Transformers brand. I've seen it in other toy lines, but to my knowledge, it's never really been something that's done with Transformers before, where we had a audio gimmick that then receives that and does something outside of like a helmet or, of that manner, a role-play device. So this is really interesting, to say the least. I mean, the big thing to me about this news is we finally get to see some toys and, more importantly, the alt modes of some of these new characters. So we'll go through this one at a time, talk about all these different things. So the first one we have here, we have Battle Call Optimus Prime Officer Class. Now, the Officer Class is going to be the larger price point of it. It looks like there's two different price points for this electronic Battle Call gimmick. So the Officer Class is the larger one. It's going to have a retail MSRP of $49.99. And we got an Optimus. When you tell him, hey, Optimus, power up, he's going to have a armor that flips down, goes over his chest, translucent kind of stuff. He has a clearly some kind of shield that also is going to house the electronic gimmick that could also open up, and a sword. Nothing much really to mention. Your paint by the numbers G1 Optimus Prime robot mode, G1 Optimus Prime looking alt mode. Very different than that more Cybertronian one we were discussing a few days ago. Then, of course, we also have same thing. We have the Battle Call Bumblebee, which also the Officer Class, which is going to also be the larger $49.99 price point. And it's the same thing. You say something, it flips down, an armor on his chest. He has two little, battle blades of translucent plastic. It also says that both of these characters, also when you talk to them, they say certain phrases on top of the lights and sounds. So Optimus has 20 different phrases. Bumblebee has 15 different phrases, as much as Autobots unite, go Autobots, roll out, yada, yada, yada. And same thing with this one. The robot mode and alt mode are more inspired from the earlier season designs, which are more the Earth mode than the more Cybertronian one that we've seen recently with the toys we've been discussing. And these are both planned, apparently, for an availability of August 1st, 2020. So in the fall of this year. Now we go into the more interesting stuff. Now we have the Battle Call Trooper Class. And why this is interesting is not only is it a smaller price point, and it still houses the same kind of gimmicks, but it's of characters that we've only seen the designs for and not toys and not even their alt modes, just robot modes we've seen. So let's start with Meteofire. We had all kinds of speculation. We're like, what does he turn into? He's got this cool looking like jet kind of thing. Maybe he turns into, I don't know, some kind of like rail train or some kind of flight thing. There's hover things. It looks like, judging, it's hard to tell because of the fact that it has to house the gimmick, and so it's going to obviously affect the way that it transforms in the alt mode. But he looks like a very bulky, oversized jet. Now, granted, this might be just because of how it has to house the gimmick, and so the jet is not sleeker like most jets usually are. Because, you could clearly see he has his little gyros on the side, much like Windblade, and he has, jet rudders and stuff. It's hard to tell, but at least we know that this character turns into some kind of flight vehicle. And same thing, you tell him to do stuff, and he's going to transform, voice activated, Energon armor, the whole 9 yards. Apparently this one, though, doesn't have phrases that he says. Now, these ones are, because they're the trooper class, they're the smaller price point one, and they're going to be 5.5 inches, so similar to, say, of a deluxe, if you will, but it'll have, those gimmicks and the electronics, but they will be a retail of $24.99 and also will be releasing the same time as the others, the beginning of August. Let's jump into the Bumblebee one. The Bumblebee one is interesting because we have a officer class and now we have a trooper class one. This one comes with a sword. It has a very Unicronian looking kind of head armor, which I find very interesting that they went with that idea. But otherwise, again, same old alt mode, same old robot mode. Not much really to say. Let's get into another new character, Wild Wheel, the Texan, Blondie, good, bad, and the ugly. We were excited about this one. What does he turn into? What does he come with? He turns into a car. Yeah. Damn. I was hoping for something a little more interesting, but I guess with Wild Wheel, there was only so much he could turn into, right? He comes with dual-wield clear weapons. At least when, he has that armor come over, it's kind of not asymmetrical, so you have like the bandolier kind of thing going on. It's different. Again, I like I'm hoping that maybe his deluxe or his warrior figure will give us a little more of an interesting tale. And maybe this car mode, which I'll give it, it's yet another one of those like hot rod, more Cybertronian kind of looking car modes. We'll definitely see what happens. And the very last ones here are two characters that we did know we were going to get figures of because, no surprise, it's a Megatron and it's a Starscream. But just like the others, they don't use the new designs that we're going to be seeing with this new season. We're seeing the old designs, the old tank design and the old Starscream jet design. And Starscream is going to have, this weird hand, extension hand claw thing. And I don't know, like, hey, Megatron comes with a sickle. That's kind of cool, right? You know what? This is something that its price point is significantly high for the size of the figure. I understand that they wanted to do something more gimmicky that'll appeal to children, but I think that the high price point, especially with how small some of these are going to be, is going to make it very difficult. And I mean, I don't want to rag on it, but I'm kind of calling it now. These are going to be some of the first items that you're going to see on liquidation and clearance from the Cyberverse line going into the later half of 2020. I mean, I'm just not feeling a lot of this. I'm really not. And again, I get it. It's not for me. It's the more gimmicky stuff for kids. But even then, I can't really see a parent or a kid wanting to lean more towards this stuff when it's the more expensive stuff. I mean, like, to get a huge Optimus toy that does have an auto transform gimmick and everything, that's cool. But at a, $50 price point, USD, there's so many other Optimuses that look the same, that kind of do the same thing, and have the dexterity otherwise. Again, I was only excited about this news because we get to kind of see the alt modes of two characters that we've been speculating. And yeah, we'll see what comes of it. Hopefully we'll get some better toys of these characters. Toy Fair is this weekend, and we'll know the truth soon enough.